Washington. A U.S. official telling the Associated Press Secretary of State Antony Blinken will delay his trip to China. It was originally scheduled for this weekend. It's being reported that Blinken does not want the surveillance balloon to dominate the meetings with Chinese leaders, including Xi Jinping.
Yeah, China says it's a civilian airship used for weather search, and it got off course. But is it really? And we're going to talk about that. Michael Pillsbury is a senior fellow and director of Chinese strategy at the Hudson Institute. Good morning to you. What did you think when you heard this and the response from China?
I have to correct you briefly. I've left Hudson Institute. I'm now a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. So,
well, congratulations. You got a new job. All right.
Yeah, Heritage is much bigger than Hudson, so it's a good deal, I think.
Right on.
The balloons, this, as you know, China is a red-hot political issue. When Nancy Pelosi went over there, I think she defused to visit Taiwan. I think she defused a lot of suspicion that Democrats, and in particular the Biden administration, is somehow pro-China. And they say the right things rhetorically, but they don't take any real actions. So this balloon caper, if you will, is a really good example of that. Here the Chinese have put out their cover story, which we used to do in the Cold War. When we had U-2 flights go astray in Russia, we would say, oh, this is a weather flight. It's innocent. But the Biden administration cannot be seen to condone this, in part because of the capabilities. There's a rather large balloon, as they call it, three gigantic buses in size, like your house. Obviously, all kinds of reconnaissance equipment could be in there. Many people would like to capture it, bring it down safely, and find out what it is that they were recording on their tape recorders. This craft is 200 miles from our biggest ICBM field. And what in the Cold War, what used to happen between Russia and America is we wanted to know the precise locations, not just from maps, but from our own recordings or from space. What's the precise locations of the missile silos, the nuclear ICBM silos, for counting and arms control, and also for, heaven forbid, a nuclear war? So when the Chinese have this size of a balloon accidentally be blown off course right over within 200 miles, which is a very good distance to tape record signals intelligence, to take pictures, to understand when we open and close the missile silo doors. All this is militarily important information China already has. Only if we shoot it down or bring it down somehow will we be able to do what they did to us in 2001. Remember, they kept our crash-landed P-3 reconnaissance aircraft. They cut it up in pieces and gave it back to us after 6 months. But they examined all the recording devices and exactly what we were doing with our reconnaissance flights. That was 60 miles offshore from China.
Yeah,
so in a way, this is an old game.
Sure, you could learn a lot, right, from what's being held up there. But at this point, as you know, Michael, the president did not shoot down this surveillance balloon, so we don't have access to that information. What do you believe would be the appropriate next steps from this administration to actually learn what data could have been collected?
The next step is really at the diplomatic level, where we've got to demand an explanation. We cannot let them recover this balloon and then take the recordings out. That would be the worst case. So the Biden team now, I think they're split. I think some of them want climate change talks to go on. They want to minimize this. They want to accept the Chinese cover story that this is a weather balloon that's off course, and they regretted it. You know, it's a kind of apology. The other group there's a few hawks in the Biden administration. They want them, for political reasons alone, they want to admit that there's a kind of a Cold War with China now. And this is a good example of where we have to draw the line. I hope that group of hawks in the Biden camp wins, but I'm not confident they will.
How difficult do you think it is to get this pulled down to the U.S. and examine it? I mean, it's quite high up. How do you do that? And how does this affect our relations going forward with China? We know things are tense right now with Taiwan, several issues right now, but how do you get that thing down, and what does this do for our relationship with China?
Well, it's 60,000 feet up. So by our interpretation of international law, it's in American airspace. We consider space to be either 50 miles up, 300,000 feet, or 62 miles up. So it's in our airspace. We're legally entitled to bring it down. Obviously, firing missiles at it destroys the recording devices. The Chinese might even hope that we will shoot it down and destroy the evidence of what they were doing. There are safer ways to do it. I hate to advertise in advance what they are, but this kind of thing happened during the Cold War. And that's really the issue of the future of U.S.-China relations. Are we in a Cold War with China or not? If we are, then a lot of things we're doing, the $1 trillion of American investment, $1 trillion of American investment in China, looks rather stupid. If we're not in a Cold War with China, then we should be negotiating climate change and environmental agreements of all kinds and sort of forget, put it aside. We won't know for a few days what the Biden team's going to do, I don't think.
Either way, Blinken's trip is delayed, right? He was supposed to go over to China, meet with Xi Jinping, and then, questions about security and surveillance, by the way, from China, not only this alleged spy balloon, but then also maybe what people have on their phones, the app TikTok. A lot of questions about that as well. Michael Pillsbury, thank you so much for answering our call and joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, the Pentagon is going to